What's up, Star Wars Unlimited fans? It's Loopy here at Late Night Gaming, and we are here for the Rey Data Vault Masterclass. And I'm first joined by the guy who's now set the record for the shortest amount of time between Masterclass appearances, John Tatta. How you doing?
Hey, happy to be back again. Always love doing these with you.
Yep, absolutely. And Tatta is a member of the KTOD competitive team. Just a month ago, he top aided the Richmond sector, right, with
Yeah.
Qi'ra. So joined us for Woo with that. And now is coming off. How did Minnesota go for you?
I made the semifinals, top 4 in Minnesota as well. Yeah.
With what deck?
With Rey Data Vault, as it turns out. That's why I'm here. And fun fact, I think that Yehosera and myself, along with Alex, are the only 3 people to top 8 both a sector and a regional.
Ooh.
So that's fun.
Ooh.
So there we go. And I'm very happy to meet and be joined by yehosera, who's both European and a Actar. That's actually a valid webcam right now. But how are you doing?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Happy to be on these.
So why don't we kick this off? You kind of started the Rey Data Vault craze that is sweeping SWU. What made you think about this deck in the first place?
Well, I was coming off the back of Anakin at Liverpool. And there's nothing wrong with Anakin. He's a very strong leader still. But the bans had just happened, where they hit the Django, Triple Dark Raid, and the DJ. And this meant that I was playing into more Quinnlands and stuff. Anakin is just not very happy to see. Basically, I was having a miserable time with him. Despite the fact that he wasn't weak, I just wasn't winning as much as I was before. So I thought, right, we've got to try something new. And I moved on back to Han 1 and Blue for a bit. And while I was practicing Han 1 and Blue, I played against Emmy from the Nexus a few games to practice for Lille. And he was playing Luke 1 Data Vault. And the stuff that the deck was doing looked really powerful, but I just felt like it wasn't aggro-proof because the leader's not very good into aggressive decks. So I basically was inspired by that and went, what if I took the most defensive leader I can? And thus I decided Rey.
Well, that's fascinating. And actually, before, during the prep, John mentioned the Django matchup was particularly problematic for an archetype like this.
Yep. Django is horrible. Also, DJ meant that your leader flipping on 6 was completely unplayable. Anakin was like the only 6 flip that I thought was good because he innately is able to kill Han when he flips and DJ when they deploy with any 4 power unit they play on the previous turn.
Right.
Yeah, and our testing was the same with the 6 deploy leaders. Like, you couldn't play anything with 6 deploy in a world with DJ.
You just got stuck repeating mana turn 5 over and over again.
Yep. So once he got banned, it opened up for these Data Vault decks to, even exist.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what kind of a player, what kind of player expect, going to Rey deck? Can you give me the elevator pitch of why play this deck?
Oh, any of your bald patches start to go away. You feel energized in the mornings.
It's very invigorating.
Suddenly your shoes fit better. It's amazing.
Soon you'll be on a plane ride to Vegas.
Exactly.
It's just that easy.
Life just falls into place. It's crazy. Basically, a lot of your games are going to be defensive because you're going to be you're probably the most defensive deck in the game right now, or at least the most defensive viable deck in the game right now. So you're going to be the one doing basically all the trades. And what's going to happen is you will eventually accumulate so many cards in hand. You never miss your resources. You'll end up with tons of mana. You'll just have like 13 mana, 7 cards in hand, and you'll be feeling really good about life.
Yeah, that sums it up. You're in for if you like long, grindy games where the first 8 turns you're doing nothing but trading and drawing cards, then this is the deck for you.
That's a perfect description.
All right. And that's why we like John. Let's get to the deck. We're going to be going through kind of quite a few different things. This is not the deck. That's the end of the matchup ones. But let's actually get your decks here. So, yehosera, this is your list from the PQ in Brighton. Am I right about that?
Yep.
So, tell me in broad strokes kind of what the deck is trying to do.
Survive. That's all you want to do. Current objective is survive, because you know that the second you reach mana turn 8, 9, 10, you beat every deck. So you just need to, you just need to survive. You notice that the mana curve, it stops at 3 and then starts again at like 6 or 7. I mean, it's Bright Hope, but that's not a real unit. Because all you want to do on those turns is just keep deploying multiple small units that are going to keep trading, keep restoring, and keep you in it. So yeah, that's basically the goal of the deck. Survive.
All right. And John, this is the deck that you just top forward with. Tell me about the kind of adjustments you made, personalizing it to your playstyle.
Yeah, so I didn't know that I was even going to play Ray until about 2 days before the event, if I'm being totally
Nice.
honest. So like you mentioned earlier, I made top 8 in Richmond with Qi'ra, and that was about, I think, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks before the Minnesota Regional. I've been on here before. Everyone knows by now that I hate mirror matches. I despise them. I do everything I can to avoid playing them. So after playing a few Qi'ra mirrors, I decided that I didn't want to play Qi'ra anymore. And I was just looking for some deck to play that was not exactly similar, but could also play like the long grindy game. So I just, had some friends that played Ray here in the States. I just, sent like a message to a few of them, said, hey, what do you like about this list? They gave me the elevator pitch. I played a few games with it. I think lost all of them and decided
Nice.
that I would play it in Minnesota.
Very
Made
good.
some changes. So the main changes are the timely reinforcements and the unity. I just wanted a way to beat the mirror because again I hate playing them, and a way to beat all the Data Vault decks here in the States. I don't know how it is over in Europe, but here Data Vault is what everybody plays. Qi'ra, like Han, just Data Vault, Data Vault, Data Vault. Like I think day 2 was 70% Data Vault. So by playing cards like Timely and the Unity, you just get free wins against those decks because they cannot match your pure value. So while surviving is the main goal, it's more once you get to turn, 8, 9, 10, you have a 5 resource, just I win card. So that's kind of how it evolved, and worked out pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the basically it's an additional win con for the deck, on top of kind of the Lukes and Homeones and just beating them with that. Is that an apt description?
Yeah, exactly. And then the sideboard changed somewhat too. We added the was it Artiquin's Assault Cruiser to deal with other Home 1 decks and against Han Green. Two sides, of course, is still good. Direct Hit is also for those same kind of decks, and also for the Vader Yellow matchup, which I think is the hardest matchup for this deck. And then, one random cheeky regional governor, which actually won me a game against Han Green. I was able to play it turn 1 and name Falcon. So,
And a horror.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Absolute cinema.
and I think that
yep.
your cat opponent valued regional governor enough.
Yep.
Didn't he remove it from your hand over a Luke?
He bazined the governor over Luke's and Home 1s because he was
Right.
worried that I'd shut something off. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, great played, both of you. I mean, regarding Qi'ra mirrors, I actually recall distinctly looking at Wu after round 3, and I thought he would lose. I thought he was doing poorly in the tournament because he looked like he'd been run over by a truck. And I asked him what happened. He's like, 2 of my first 3 matches were Qi'ra mirrors.
Qi'ra, yeah, his first 2 rounds were Qi'ra. Yeah.
So, and shout out, of course, to him who ultimately took the thing home. You can check out John and Wu doing the masterclass for Qi'ra last week, I think. It's amazing how time flies.
Yep.
Let's talk about kind of the deep dive lines. So this is kind of the core of our content today. First, Ray. I mean, what are you trying to do with her leader side?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, so her ability is tap 1, pay 1 to experience token to a unit with 2 or less power. Is that
well, you just use it as much as you can in the early game. Cards like R2D2, for instance, is an absolute nightmare for aggressive decks that are 2/5. Like, it's really hard for them to kill. Threatens to trade back into most things over 2 turns, giving you constant scry value. Like, it just makes all of the early game crappy units, because you see a lot of the cards in the deck cost 3 or less. It makes those into actually viable units. Like, for instance, Tech as a 4-mana 3/6. It's a fine card.
Yeah, I mean,
So it just makes all of them good. Sorry, go ahead.
I echo that. Like, it's just like your best turn 1 play most often is R2D2. That's the card that I want in almost every matchup. The clone 2/3 guy, he's good too against decks like Sabine. You know, making him a 3/4. You can value trade against any unit that they play on turn 1. Yeah, so that's the ideal. And then from then on, it's like on your 3 resource turn, it's like playing C3PO, you know, give him an XP, play Mon Mothma, give her an XP, just things like that.
Well, one thing about the hero ability that's really important with Rey is it gives you a wonderful way to action stall when you're waiting for your opponent to do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
so? Are you typically not playing with initiative most of the time?
No, you start the game by losing initiative. You
Yeah,
almost never get it back.
You don't have initiative until late, and that's, you know, even if then, because early on you're taking 2-3 actions a turn, well, whereas your opponent's just, you know, playing their card and making their attacks. So
And that's probably part of the learning curve for the deck too, because whenever I, you know, go to or from one that's like that, like Vader's like this, right? You are very often you're trying to use his ping, and it makes you slow, right? It takes a little bit to adjust. All right, and
It
then
just means you have to play as a reactive player instead of a proactive one, because you're always going to be without the initiative.
It's not a very proactive deck, at least early on. You know, late game you kind of switch into that mode, but you know, early on you're very, very reactive to what your opponent's doing.
Yeah, 100%.
all right, and let's talk a little bit about her deployed too. I mean, are you typically using her first on attack on her as it goes through?
Her deploy turn is one of the really hard parts about the deck, because it's why I don't like cards like Obi-Wan in the deck, because you would play it and that's your whole thing on the only thing you can do on her deploy turn. But on her deploy turn, you want to be taking like 3 actions before you even deploy her. And due to that, you don't always put the EXP on her. It's ideal to, but sometimes you have something like a village protectors say that if you give the EXP to, will be able to threaten to trade into a damage unit, or you'll have a tech that they're threatening to kill, and now you're putting it out of range. So it's not always on her, and because of the way that the turns should go on her flip turn, you take lots of actions, so you really need to be adapting to what's taking place on the board where you want to put that EXP.
Yeah, that's 100%. And there were several times where I would use Rey. You know, ideally you always want to keep her out for several turns. Like, that's the goal.
Right.
But there were several times where I would use her as just like basically like a pseudo takedown or fell the dragon, where I just kill their best unit and then take over the game with Lukes and Homeones. So it's just kind of like, you know, certain matchups you want to use her in different ways, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, she kind of is a quasi-sentinel just because of so much restore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that decks can't just let restore 3 happen every turn and expect to win.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
It's one of your win conditions is connecting twice with Rey.
Yep.
All right. I think you actually just mentioned this. Homeone. This is a key card core to the deck as far as finishing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like probably the second best card in the deck. I mean, you know, we'll talk about Luke Skywalker. He's, you know, your best card for sure. But this is up there with you, Wing. Like, it's one of your win conditions. It's one of your value engines. You use it to get back, you know, things like Actar to kill something, or a Mon Mothma to draw a card, or very late game. There were several times where I would get back Luke Skywalker because you just, you know, you're on like 15 resources at that point.
Which is 12, right? Because it's
That's
8 plus 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And, obviously playing Homeone into Luke is strong.
Yeah.
What kinds of things are you pulling with Homeone, yehosera? I mean, is there anything in particular you're looking for with this?
Tech, 100%.
Mhm.
In the against any of the grindy matches, you play they kill your tech, you play like Homeone, bring out a different tech, and then smuggle Spark of Hope to put the tech that died back into the resource pile, and
Right.
control decks are absolutely molding when that happens.
Yeah.
So they've just got, they're like, I just killed that, and he's already put another one in play and set up another one. So
Yeah.
you're gonna
That's a really good point, and that's something that I was going to bring up later. Is that versus decks like Qi'ra or other grindy decks, like really blue villain and in particular, you want to keep your Spark of Hopes for as late as possible, because then you just have like the techs nonstop. Like they kill tech, you Spark of Hope them back. It's just like it gets really silly.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
100%.
let's talk about that. And I'm actually just going to put Spark of Hope into our cards because I think it is actually very important how that's used. Talk about looping with it. I think yehosera kind of touched on it, but what are you using that for to reload?
The tech's your main smuggle card that you're going to want to reload with it. If your list has card like Salvage in, that requires you to revive from the break zone, the discard.
Yep.
You need to be careful with what your Spark of Hoping, because you don't want to put vehicles in where possible. So whenever you have option not to put vehicle in, you don't want to put vehicle in. And whenever you have option to put something that doesn't have heroism symbol in, you want to do that as well. So you just need to be aware. You don't always have the luxury of choice, but when you do, just be aware that you might be hitting your own salvages or home ones.
Any further thoughts on Spark of Hope, John?
No, I mean he nailed it. Like for me, the main thing is tech.
Yes.
There's a lot of matchups where you can Spark of Hope pretty much at any point, and it doesn't matter. You just want to ramp. But the more grindy decks like Qi'ra, I value the recursion with Spark of Hope more than I do the actual ramp with it.
Right. And you're sometimes doing it very late in games, right?
Yeah, that's usually when you do it is on like 8, 9, 10 resources. That's when you bring your techs out.
So are you resourcing that early to where you see a spark like that's a good card to resource because I might be able to bring it back later?
No, I usually don't want to resource Spark. I want to keep it in my hand for as long as possible, just for the techs and the late game.
It's only if you have 2 tech in your resource pile that you can resource 1 spark.
Yeah,
That's the only point when you can start to resourcing the sparks.
Okay.
Yep.
Great stuff. All right. Luke. I mean, I think he's been one of the best cards in the game since release.
I said it earlier. I mean, he's the best card in the deck. He's your primary win con. This is the guy that does all the heavy lifting.
It's the reason he's the protagonist.
Yep.
I still think Luke and Vader unit are probably the 2 best 7-drops in Star Wars, and it's been that way a long time.
I mean, I think he's the best card in the whole game. Like, I don't think there's a single card better than Luke Skywalker. This guy is just like he does everything.
We got to get you and Wu together again because I know he's on Vader for that. What are your thoughts, sir?
No, man, I think resupply is the best card in the game. I think that's the scariest card to see.
If I hear
That's
one more, we need to insta-ban force throw. Discussion. I mean, if we're doing that, we better get rid of resupply. And power the dark side and all the other cards that are meant to be core. But that's clearly meant to be a core card to a certain kind of deck. And
so the Luke Skywalker. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the Luke Skywalker. When you look at the other blue heroism cards, there is nothing that comes even close to his power level. Here's where the entire power budget for the color is gone.
Right. No, I think that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to some things that worked, in every deck of that color until now. Actar is actually really good here, which surprises some people. Can you explain why? Why don't we start with you, Sarah? Because I like the answer you gave on a different channel.
Oh, now I have to remember the answer I gave. Oh, yes. Basically, Actar does a unique thing that no other card in your color can do with the chip burn damage.
Mm-hmm.
So you have nothing else in your colors that does increments of damage. They just don't have that text. They either have ambush or they're static. So Akbar gives you a new dimension when it comes to removing units. That's why he's really important. 'Cause it adds a new line of play for you to consider on turns.
And are you setting up a good Akbar sometimes maybe a couple of turns in advance?
Well, how the deck plays, naturally, you're setting up good Akbars because you just play so many units out. But where possible, you obviously want to try and set up to clear with Akbar. Like, set up so you can claim, like maybe miss an attack so you can claim the initiative to get an insta-kill with Akbar at the start of the turn. It's wonderful when that happens. The other great thing about Akbar is the Ewing reinforcement. It's why the deck has a very high one-drop density. Well, I mean, it has it to use the Ray effect, but it benefits from a very high one-drop density. Because that way, with your Ewing, you're really likely to hit 3 forwards when you hit an Akbar. So that means that your Akbar is doing minimum 3 and then plus whatever you have on the board. So anytime you've seized a little bit of board control, say 2 units are lingering around, all of a sudden Ewing is, I make 3 guys kill your best guy. Akbar, absolutely wonderful for that.
Are you ever bringing him up with Bright Hope?
Yeah. If it's necessary. I've definitely done it before.
And are you using the Ray ability on him sometimes?
Oh, yeah. Gotta get in. Because you put the Ray ability on him and they think, oh, okay, that means he's going to stick around. And then you get to pull the famous line. It's a trap when you Bright Hope the Akbar back to replay it. Because they didn't clear it because they thought he'd stick around.
I actually just, one of my testing games, I did one. And I was looking forward to this masterclass. I had kind of the same experience John did running Ray for the first time. You know, I was getting smoked by metadecks, you know, in my testing. But I did actually have a Akbar, you know, that I set up, you know, where I had him, you know, kill a thing and then, you know, immediately get his ambush unit Akbar'd, and I said it was a trap. All right, John.
Yeah, no, I mean that's he summed it up, man. Like he is one of my favorite cards in the whole deck. Every time I play U-Wing, I either want to find Luke Skywalker or Admiral Akbar and 2 other units. Like that is like the dream U-Wings, and he is incredible with you know, like Mon Mothma just finds them and just naturally has a body for him still in play to ping something for 2. With U-Wing, he's always at least a deal 3. Note that you can play him off of a Homeone or something, and then use Homeone as your 1 space unit to ping something in space for 1. Like that came up more than once at the regional where I was able to, you know, finish off something big in space, like a, you know, Avenger or something with Akbar. Like he does go cross, you know, zone as long as you have space units. Yeah, I mean he pretty much does it all.
And on the
as well.
on the subject of U-Wing, is it sometimes important how you order those cards within the U-Wing?
That kind of.
I mean, kind of, yeah. Like they all come into play at the same time, and then you trigger the effects like in the order you know want to trigger them in, which like matters sometimes, but not usually.
All right, Bright Hope. Tell me about the uses of Bright Hope. I mean, it's obviously good if you're trying to block the Space Arena because it's a Sentinel.
Kind of. Like, okay, so let me just touch on that. So Bright Hope, like a lot of people might see this deck and play this guy as like a 2/6 Sentinel to try to block space. Don't do that because you will never win a game if you rely on Bright Hope to stop their space. It is not 100%. In there to stop their space. It is in there to draw you more cards. So you're supposed to use it to bounce back your Mon Mothma, bounce back your 3PO, like anything that's on the ground that's just sitting there. Like you want to use it to bounce that back and draw a card. If you're playing Bright Hope as a 2/6 Sentinel without using the Wind Blade effect, you're probably playing it incorrectly.
Yep, I agree completely. I write about it in my article as well. It's like I never actually play that as a 2/6 Sentinel. If I'm dying in the Space Arena, I'm so dead a 6 health Sentinel is going to do nothing. You need your upgrades to win that arena. Instead, this is more like an event that draws you a card and lets you replay your stuff. Keeps some gas in the tank. Because I originally didn't play the Bright Hope at all. I cut it from the deck completely because obviously it was useless as a Sentinel in space. And I went, well, why do I have it then? And I found myself needing a little bit more gas in some of the grindier games. So he did make his way back in as an event.
Yeah, and like that's not to say that it's never good as a Space Sentinel. It's just extremely rare. I mean, there are games where you can make it like a 3/7 Sentinel, and it will buy you time, but that's just like the secondary effect.
So, I mean, have you had it happen that you're actually peeking and knowing your C3PO card and then casting him again because you bounced him?
No, because you'll draw the 3-pure card, so it'll be a new
Right.
card.
Well, yeah, but if you miss, right?
No, yeah. So if you miss, you play it. You
Right.
bounce it.
You
draw
bounce him
the-
up and you
Yeah,
play the C3PO
yeah.
again,
you
it'll
miss.
pull up. That's what I was trying to say anyway. Now,
So
no,
and just this made me think of something. He mentioned earlier that he would use his upgrades to win or control the space arena, which is very, very true with cards like Entrenched. I actually cut traders completely.
I actually
That's
added
something that
Entrenched
kind of
to our
overlooked.
list as
Okay.
this came up. So let's actually talk about that right now. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
we talked about the Sentinel. Now, where does Entrenched play in the deck? How are you guys using it? Because it's a card that
So it
can be
Yeah,
wildly different
it
uses.
always goes on their space units typically. There are times where you put it on your own ground units. I beat Sabine like 2 different times by just playing like a village people and just like playing double entrenched on it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely done for them.
yeah, so you don't want to play it on your own space units like Bright Hope because it's like super wasted, and like you obviously don't want to play it on their ground units because it doesn't do anything there either. Um, but this is how you control space, like the Avengers, the Devastators, maybe like a gunship. That's how you kind of like stop that nonsense. Yeah, I mean, but I cut traders completely. Like, there's just too many confiscates around here, and it just never worked.
So I'd say that you have to play traitorous because there are confiscates. Because you want to have more upgrades than they have confiscates. So if you have 3 entrenched, they're as likely
Yeah.
to see confiscate 0 entrench. So I like having the extra upgrades to give me
Yeah.
more of a chance to see
Yeah,
2 to their 1.
That might be why my Vader 4 matchup was so bad, is because I cut the traitresses. But I didn't miss them at all, probably except for that one matchup.
They're very key in that. But
Yeah.
I mean, the reason you lost is because they must have cheated. I mean, it's the only way.
Of course. Yeah,
Don't even
makes sense.
start. So let's talk about Entrenched. I'm going to add Traitorous to the list too, because that's actually a fascinating card for me in SWU generally. But Sarah, do you want to speak a little bit on Entrenched, like when you're using it, what your thoughts are on it?
Yeah, just think of it as a diagonal. It either goes on your ground or their space. Shouldn't really go any other way. Anytime that you feel like the space arena is something that you don't have to worry about, it's good to just put it on something like against Sabine, I put it on a 3PO. It can't do anything because you put an EXP counter on it on turn 2 and then put the entrench. It's 5 attack. It's going to kill the Sabine as soon as it flips. Can't deploy their leader. It's just an absolute nightmare. Then their Poe Dameron has to like commit a card from hand just to break the entrench to kill a stupid 3PO. So yeah, Entrench is the kind of card where I like to hold it for like a couple turns just in case, but I'm not married to holding it in my hand.
All right. We were on Mon Mothma. Let's kind of get back to this. Certainly, probably the most uptick played card in SWU the last month, because there's 2 big decks that play here, and it was very rarely played before. So what's Mon doing in this?
It's because she made a really good appearance in season 2 of Under.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But if you
absolutely.
do not tell me a
Yep.
spoiler, we just started the first episode of that.
I'm not going to tell you. Spoiler. She's good in the show though, so you'll see why she made it into the deck. It's because your Data Vault deck partially. So you need some way to filter towards Luke Skywalker, because you obviously Mon Mothma can't pass over him, so she will only ever put you 5 towards him. So it helps mitigate the downside of your deck size. And then it's a just fantastic Power of the Dark Side blocker, which is always relevant. And by that I mean a card that you can play and your opponent can never play Power of the Dark Side because it's killing some jank that's already done its effect. And then obviously 1 attack means that it's great for Rey, and then 2 means you can get U-wing reinforcement combination. She's just in a very good spot in this specific type of deck.
Yeah, and it's obviously good against decks like Quinnland, which are trying to discard you into top deck mode.
Oh yeah, at Lille I actually had a player play all 3 pillage. It wasn't a Quinnland, but it was a hand 2 blue, and he played all 3 pillage and a profundity that discarded 4 cards. I still have more cards than him because of Mon Mothma and Bright Hope.
Yeah, and she's really your best card to bring back with Bright Hope under most circumstances because it's really like a draw 2.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I know some very, very good players that actually prioritize killing her, even though it's a 1/3. You know, they'll pass on killing a clone deserter to make sure that
Yeah,
Mon
I
goes
was-
down so she doesn't get pulled back up.
I was really surprised to see that Joshua went down to 1 in his PQ list. I played 3 in mine. I think the reasoning is probably that she's not very good against like Sabine and the faster decks because you lose the ground arena. But there's just, I didn't mind taking that chance. She's just that important to the value engine.
Well, I had to make space for Cargo Juggernaut and the Moisture Farmers.
You had to make space in the deck. You couldn't just slam them in there.
Oh man, we'll get to that.
62 felt, 62 felt good. Right?
We'll be
63 might have been.
Hold off, guys. We got that teed up. We changed it. Don't get to it too early here. All right. So the Village People, Village Protectors is actually the name of the card, but at least here we typically call it Village People.
Yeah, they're village people here.
What matchups are you on in this, yehosera?
Anything that's trying to attack me on the ground. And also silly ambush unit decks like Han too. The smelly ambush cards, don't like them. So you got to get that to protect your units from ambushes. It's really great on Rey's flip turn because they'll be sat there with their stupid Wrecker in hand going, I'm going to get his Rey when it flips. You play that and they're like, no, my whole turn been countered. So yeah. You really want to hold on to it until you can protect something.
That's actually
That's
how all Sabine players talk too. But
yeah, they hate that card. I can't believe it.
Sabine hates this card. That's exactly right. John.
2 Sentinel Shield. The developers weren't even trying with this one, man.
It's like you said, it's your number 1 card against the decks that attack you on the ground. It's good against Sabine. It's actually surprisingly good against Han 1 green. Because a lot of the ways that they can beat you, if they're smart, is to ambush all of your units with the 5-cost Han pilot and the 7-cost Big Han. So even though they're a quote-unquote space deck, this is really, really good against them because it kind of foils their all ambush plan. It stops their blue leader ambush on the ground. It stops their Han ambush on the ground, their Big Han ambush.
Right.
It is weak to Envy's Nest, but it's good against all the other stuff.
Are you often using the Rey ability on it?
Oh yeah.
Whenever you can, yeah. It's as soon as you play it, I oftentimes want to pump it, before they attack it, but that doesn't always work that way. But you do want to pump it fairly often.
All right, our protocol droid. C-3PO's part of the draw engine.
Yeah, he's just another value card. This deck is all value, and he's just one of the value pieces. There's a ton of 3-drops in this deck. I think I played in my deck. I think it was 21 was the count. So it's going to hit maybe 30% of the time.
Blind.
You call 3 blind, yeah, right. And then with R2, it's just insane.
Right.
It's just more 4 health units to play on the first turn. That's really what you want.
Okay. Are there any ways to set up the draw other than R2 on unblind?
I think so.
Other than a previous one missing, I think it's just that.
Yeah, previous one missing works too. Yeah.
Right.
But again, you're hitting it at about a third of the time anyway, blind. Just over a third actually of the time blind.
Yeah.
So
And then
it's fine.
And then I think that there's some interaction with Mon Mothma too, because if you see Luke with C-3PO, I mean that's a good time to, because you'll know that will be one of the cards you draw with Mon.
Yeah, you can set it up so you know that you're hitting a rebel. It's also good with your techs because if you see Luke, as you said, I'm probably not smuggling tech this turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, we talked about Entrenched. That's just where it wound up as I go. Fleet Lieutenant, you want to talk about this, yehosera?
Yes, this is what I think is one of the best cards in the deck. It's actually one of the cards that I saw in the Luke deck that made me go, wow, this deck has potential.
It's one of the best cards in the
Because-
game. It has been a long time,
Yeah,
for sure.
but you'd normally see it at home in aggressive decks like Sabine. So you start to go, what's it doing in this low late game deck? The answer is because it compiles your actions into one, letting you play a unit and attack as one action. It means that it gives you a window to start turning the game into one where you're the one taking the initiative. It lets you really turn the corner, especially off of a Ewing reinforcement, where you hit this. It means that your turn is play 3 units and attack as one action. Your opponent's definitely going to need more than one action to counteract this, so you start being able to be the one to claim the initiative and work from there. It also lets your Luke kill other Lukes, survival with Homeone to set up other trades on the ground. So it's just useful. Also, you don't have to attack with a Rebel. You just don't get the +2. So you still are able to compact actions.
Yeah, actually, I played
Even without-
a lot of Quinnland with Rebels last set, and a lot of times, like the Fleet Lieutenant to then be the third card for close coordinate. I mean, it actually gives you +3, even though he's not a Rebel.
Yeah.
Fleet
Yeah,
Lieutenant, John.
He really shines once you get to your Ewing turns and when Luke's in play. Like, once you have all that set up, like Joshua said, it's just like you set up to where you can take the initiative with a Luke in play,
Right.
or force them to deal with your Luke. It's just a very, very good card to push damage late game. It's great to get off of Homeone, if you have something in play. I used it on, just to make Rey attack on several occasions, just so I can have the initiative. It's just a solid card.
Right. And I mean, whether you want to call it action economy or you call it tempo or whatever word you want to use for the concept, as the game gets longer and you get closer and closer to both players being in check, I mean, being able to, jack up a little more damage and then also have a secondary 3/3 on the ground, I think is just very, very good.
Don't be afraid to resource this early too.
Right.
Like, don't just play it to attack with like a Mon Mothma for 3. Like, it's a really good card to smuggle with tech late game,
Right.
For 5.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the point I want to make. This is more a late game card for Rey as opposed to kind of how it plays in Sabine. Am I right about that?
Usually,
Yes.
now there are games against Sabine where you can have certain draws where you play like a 1/4 on turn 1, and then like they play a 2/3, like a Sabine unit. Then you can fleet your 1/4 into their 2/3, and that's pretty good. But typically, you don't play it early.
Yeah. And
Yeah, usually I would save it in the first couple turns to get a feel for whether I need it to trade up or not. And if not, then it's going away until mana turn like 8, 9, 10.
Yep.
Right. So, I mean, and early, if you're playing it, you're doing it to value trade, right? You're doing it to actually make it so the thing that you're doing, it kills the thing. Whereas late game, you actually might be then having turned the corner trying to present
You're the
something.
aggressor probably at that point. Yeah, you're just trying to have good action economy.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I mean, the counter to Sabine Leader being anything with 3 attack on the ground and a Fleet Lieutenant on hand, still probably plays in, at times.
Yeah.
But as you get later, I mean, I can see how doing this on Homeone or Luke can get you where you need to be.
Yep.
Which pushes so much damage, doesn't it? Like with Luke, with that, you're pushing 8 damage and doing 3. That's an 11-point swing.
Right.
Massive.
Yeah.
I know. Great stuff, guys. And it's actually fascinating how Fleet Lieutenant plays differently here than some other decks. All right. So I did a double take when I saw this in your list, John. Sell me on Unity of Purpose for Rey.
Yeah, so, it was like, I think Thursday, so 2 days before the event. I'm adding the last few cards to the deck, gonna test some stuff, and it's like, okay, I'm going to play Timely Reinforcements. So, like, we were already on that. I'm like, I want this card for the mirror, and I want it for these Data Vault decks. And then I think it was Woo, was like, well, if you're playing that, you might as well just play Unity of Purpose. And I was like, I didn't think about that. That's actually pretty insane. So I put it in the deck, played like a couple games, saw where it had like a lot of really good use, and then just decided to roll with it because I expected a lot of Data Vault slow decks, and it worked out really well. I mean, I smuggled it for 10 with tech more than once. to win the game. But it's just a really good card in those grindy decks, matchups.
How are you setting it up? I mean, are you trying to like timely reinforcement and then
Typically,
hit the spoiler?
yeah.
Or
I mean, it's always a combo card with U-wing or timely.
Okay.
With U-wing, you get 3 guys. So at worst, you can go U-wing into like untap, play this, and give your guys +3/+3. Um, but typically by then you have 4 or 5 guys out, so it's like more like +5/+5.
Mhm.
But it's a combo card. Like you just use it after like one of your big value cards like U-wing, Homeone, or yeah, I mean that's or timely.
all of a sudden, Mon Mothno is not so trivial.
Yeah, yeah. People might think that like this card is not very good, and I can somewhat agree with that. But if your meta is like a lot of really slow, grindy decks, like the Qi'ras, the Rays, like the Hantus, even Cad Bane. Like I played this against Ray Tan in our Swiss match, and I beat him game 1 with it. Like it was a really tight game. We both had like 5 units in play. I played this and attacked him for 25.
Well, there we go. All right. So back to you. I do actually before master classes nowadays, I run at least 20 games with a list, into best of threes, just trying to get my head around it. And I'm struggling with making the cargo juggernauts good. Where are we trying to use these, yehosera?
All right. So you're going to need it against space decks because they're annoying and they don't come fight you on the ground fairly. They cheat and deploy to the coward arena. So you need I like Cargo Juggernaut because it heals me for 4, which helps in the race against those space decks. It's also got a shield, so they can't super laser salvo / overwhelming barrage and kill it. It's got 6 health, so it doesn't die to the indirect damage from Devastator. So it's really likely to heal you 4 and deal 4 to them, and sometimes that's the difference. Like in my top 8 game, I think it was, I ended up winning the game only because of a U-wing reinforcement hitting Moisture Farmer and Cargo Juggernaut to heal me 4. And I lived that turn on 1.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So it gives you, again, it's another tool in the deck because nothing in your deck actually says on entry heal your base. They're all restore, which is
Right.
by attacking. So it gives you a unique mechanic in that sense. The other reason why it's good is because a lot of the Sith-based decks with like Vaders and Mauls, that window where they're starting to play Vader Maul is how they beat you. Because they get a big damage. They get a board lead, which you're not happy with because you don't have anything like Super Laser Blast. You have to overcome board leads the old-fashioned way by trading.
Right.
And they start to accumulate a board lead off of a thing like Darth Vader, etc. And Cargo Juggernaut, being our 4/6 shield, is perfect into those decks because it's very likely to be able to kill Vader Maul after they've hit something else. And then against Maul, the 4 heal that you get replenishes the damage that it dealt with the Overwhelm. Against Vader, the shield means that it's likely to be able to clear the addition. It clears the Vader, and then it has the 6 health left on it to clear the additional unit that it played. So if you find yourself struggling because you're losing board a little bit too much, Cargo Juggernaut's very, very helpful for that. Also, the 4/6 is a nightmare for decks that play Fell the Dragon and Takedown because it's not clearable by either.
Yep, that's the ruthless stat line. I mean, is what we call it. Ruthless
Exactly.
was our spoiler set 1 for late night gaming. So, I mean, but it's the stat line that's the hardest to deal with for blue control, right? Because neither takedown nor fell hits it. Makes sense.
Yeah, 4/6 is the best stat line against those like villain control decks. Like that's always been the case, and that'll
Right.
probably always be the case as long as that card that they spoiled today might change that. But for now, 4/6 is the ideal stat line.
I think you see a very big difference between what we were both preparing for and how the decks look, because you were clearly preparing for slower decks, hence the timely and the unity, whereas I was preparing to get massacred by space decks, hence the moisture farmers and the cargo juggernaut. So
Yeah, so
you can change the deck depending on what meta you're playing into quite a bit.
No, that's a very good point. Like what I probably missed with the cargo juggernaut is that I wasn't playing moisture farmer, so I had like 1 fewer like blue unit to really use it with.
Turn it on.
Like I basically just had village protectors and my leader. So this card was very rarely a heal 4. It was usually like, here's a 4/6 shielded, deal with it. I think in 13 rounds plus, so what, 15 rounds that I played this card like twice.
And I'll confess, all my testing was on Tata's list because yehosera didn't have a SWODB link till a couple minutes ago when
So like,
he put it
you know,
together for us. So
yeah,
but
if someone takes my deck and like tries to play it, like this would be the first card that I would change. Is I would either cut this, or I would figure out a way to add a few moisture farmers, I guess.
So putting you on the spot,
Oh.
I mean, so as we go into the next set in this archetype, are we looking at the Owen Lars card, which is kind of like a moisture farmer with a draw force unit?
Well,
or
you
is
need
it-
enough Jedi's,
This-
right? Or forces.
There's only 3 force in the deck, so not right now.
Currently, no, but there might be a way to build it to where you play more force stuff. I don't know. We've only seen half of set 5, so it's hard to tell what Rey would look like next set. But there's a lot of like 2 attack units that we've seen already that could be good.
Yeah, some 2/4s. I like
Yeah, a
it.
bunch of 2/4s.
Let's talk about Traitorous. So is this a 3 of in your deck, yehosera?
Yep.
Okay, so where are you doing Traitorous? Because this is a card that's very, very fascinating too, because I think it's it makes whenever Traitorous played into probably the swing match of the game, because it really feels bad if they have an instant answer for Traitorous. So
Yeah, well,
how are you
that
using
happens,
it?
It sucks. I get that a lot. People ask about, but my opponent's playing confiscates. What do I do? I'm like, well, I mean, play it. They might not have it. I don't know. You just get lucky. But basically, after you play Resupply or Spark of Hope on the second turn of the duel, you need a very strong comeback card to mitigate the fact that you didn't play a unit. And you have Blue Leader in the deck, who's fantastic, and Traitorous gives you another option. So it's just more ways to help you swing the matchup after you've played your Resupply turn. It's obviously very key against the space decks, and they love playing upgrade removal specifically because of how, well, they get massacred by Traitorous on their key ships. Like if you steal a Falcon with a Chewie on, the game's over. They have to be
Right.
playing cards like Confiscate to try and counter it. So the fact that your opponent has to play these cards shows the strength of it.
Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, it is really very heartburning, right? Because to your point, I mean, if you play Traitorous on Pilot Chewie, and they don't have an answer, you probably just won the game. However, if they immediately confiscate, you're now hugely behind because that's going to hit you again that turn, right? Too.
Yep, 100%. It's just there's the other thing. It's like there's nothing else for me to be playing other than Entrenched, which is also an upgrade. So I can't really, like, there's no other card for me to play. I can play like Confiscate maybe, something like that. But yeah, it's more
Yeah,
just. It's
and
not
I mean
confiscate.
that's he made some really good points there about this. The space counter. I played Traitorous in the Qi'ra deck at Richmond, and it was very good. I was stealing Falcons with Chewie all day, and it was incredible.
Nice.
And
Then
then
wise
I
enough.
think, yeah, like the meta shifted, like somewhat, to where here everyone is playing either main deck, like cards like System Shock and
Fang.
Confiscate, and it's just like super annoying. So I was like, well, you know what? Why don't I just cut Traitorous? You know, even though I recognize that playing it and them not having an answer probably means you win the game on the spot, and just kind of rely more on your 5 resource turn being like Blue Leader, which is what my turn 5 or my 5 resource play was most of the time, or like a combination of like Mon Mothma into C3PO plus an XP from Rey.
Mhm.
And the way that my matchup spread worked out is that I didn't miss Traitorous at all. I played against 3 Han decks, and there wasn't a single time that I ever wanted Traitorous. People didn't usually go for the Chewie play against me, maybe because they thought I had Traitorous, or maybe just
And-
respected it much.
And that's
But-
exactly.
Well, you have a.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, they don't know your list in Swiss.
Right.
So for all they know, you're running 3 Regional Governor, 3 Entrenched, 3 Traitorous, 3 Confiscate, like they
Yeah.
could just.
Exactly.
It's so risky.
And not only that, I mean, I think that you get in kind of these mind games. For me with Qi'ra in particular, when I'm going against a Qi'ra Vault, and I main deck the Fangs right now in Quinnland, because just there's so many there, and you don't want to get blowed out by Han Green and his Falcon. But I mean, you get into this thing where the only upgrade really you're worried about in Qi'ra is traitorous. And did they take it out or did they not? Right?
Right.
Because if you can, whether I can like keep my upgrade removal or not, and I think it does prevent some problems for the opponent, thinking about that. But good stuff.
But I didn't have a single upgrade traitorous all weekend. My entrenches always just stayed.
Right.
It was nice.
You could have been playing traitorous then. You'd have massacred people.
Exactly.
All right, let's get to the matchups, which I've now put in a different list. That's not the first one we're going to do. We're going to start with Sabine. So why don't you talk about the game plan with Sabine? Is this a deck, Sabine ECL, that you had to deal with during the event?
Yeah, I mean, I played 2 Sabines, I want to say. So not as many as I thought I'd play, but 2 is still like a reasonable amount to play in, 12, 13 rounds. But yeah, this deck is actually pretty reasonably well positioned against Sabine. Their best draw can probably beat your best draw. So I mean that's something that's you have to watch out for. But if both players just have like average draws, I think you're pretty favored.
There's
have a lot of
very
games you can
little
play.
that beats Sabine's best draw, and it's been that way
Right,
for a
so
while. I mean, it is the deck that probably has the god roll, still of all of them. But
I was going to say that Sabine's biggest strength since it came out is that its strongest draw beats everything in the game.
right.
Yep.
But what's your game plan into Sabine as you're looking across from that, yehosera?
Plan A actually worked out for me, and my opponent got a game loss for an incorrect deck. So you've always got that. Always got that in your back pocket.
So other than deck check,
Other than that, yeah, you just need to. Oops. Basically, you need to keep something in hand to manage a rogue space unit. So like a blue leader or an entrenched, just something to manage a rogue space unit. Because the worst thing in the game is when it's like mana turn 4 or something. They flip the Sabine, you kill the Sabine, you're feeling good. And they go, 2 green squadron A-wings in space. And you're like, oh, I'm dead.
right?
So you need to keep, or a traitorous, anything, just one tool to manage space. You shouldn't need more than one, because a lot of the time you can sort of manage one space unit if they play 2 with your ground unit race. But yeah.
And what are the
So
tools
that's
to
the
manage
first-
space? Entrenched is one of them. I think
The
you mentioned.
upgrades. Entrenched, traitorous, blue leader.
Yeah, blue leader.
Now, are you guys ever
Those, yeah.
ambushing blue leader then using the experience?
100%. I don't want to leave it in that arena. It's just
Yeah,
established.
no,
It's the coward arena. I don't play there.
So one of their best cards against you is Sabine's Masterpiece. So there were several times where like I had no problem just sending my blue leader into their Sabine's Masterpiece like just immediately. That's one card that you really need to watch out for and not let get taken away.
Particularly if it gets behind a Bright Hope, then you're in trouble.
So I actually might have lost to the Sabine player that I beat. I think it was like maybe around 9 or 10. He attacked me with his Sabine's Masterpiece like twice, but he kept putting the experience on his Sabine's Masterpiece. So he got it up to a 5 attack, which let me fell the dragon it.
Oh, what a nice guy.
Yeah, like if he just left that at 4 attack and put XP elsewhere, like I think I was just cooked that game. But it's just, you really want cards like Village Protectors on their flip turn. Cards like Entrenched on your own Village Protectors can kind of really stem the game in your favor early. I actually, my round, I think 11 opponent I played against Sabine, I missed my turn 1 on the 2 games that I won somehow because I had turn 2 Village Protector into turn 3 double Entrenched, and they just had no answer for it.
Right.
Which is
You
just
just psyched him out by passing turn 1. Didn't know what was going on.
exactly. It's like, wait, what's going on? But it's just, it's just one of those matchups where you just control the ground the best you can, and then you'll go into turn 5, 6 on.
How do you not
slow
get blown
damage.
out by Darksaber?
I mean,
That's what the setup on the ground is for, to guarantee that you kill Sabine in one action.
Right.
yeah, you usually want to try to kill her in one action. It doesn't always work out, but that's the plan. But you also have the sideboard confiscates. Like I always side end confiscates against Sabine, even if I know their only upgrade is Darksaber, I still sideboard end 3 confiscates because
Right.
you have enough cards to take out that don't matter against them, um, to be able to not get blown out by Darksaber.
And what would
You
those
also can
what
take.
would those cards include?
Okay.
What are you taking out against Sabine?
I mean, it's like a lot of top end stuff. A lot of
Right.
times, like I actually sideboard out like my home ones a lot of time against Sabine. It just depends on how I feel the game's going to go because once you play a Luke, like the game's usually over. Like usually don't need things like home ones. So U-Wing is very good, Luke is very good, and then like Tech is kind of whatever against them. Um, usually want cards like Sundari more than Tech. Uh, just things like that. Things that are better versus the slower decks, like cards like Unity of Purpose. Aren't very good against them.
Very good. Yes, sir.
I was going to say as well, you need to make sure that you're mulliganing 4 clone deserters. That's your single best.
Yeah, it's
Turn
very
one
good
against
against them. Yeah,
They
that
they
and
can't fight that.
like R2 is very good too. You typically want one of your 1-drops more than your 2-drops against Sabine. For turn 1.
All right, Quinnland. What are you trying to do? We'll start with yehosera on this one.
You don't really need to do anything special. You should just beat it. All they can really do to beat you is have 2 force throws on their Quinnland flip, and even then, like you still sometimes make it. Yeah, I would say you don't need to really stress too much about this deck. You've got such a big health pool, and their mana turn. Obviously, the mana turn 5 is scary. Whoa, putting 13 health in play with leader and Plo Koon, insane. But you don't really care because your mana turn 6 is coming up, and if you haven't ramped, your mana turn 6 is coming up, and they've got nothing to do on 6 really. The only scary part of the deck is if they draw like 2 hand solos or something. Like one can keep them afloat for a little bit longer before they run out of gas in the tank. 2 sometimes lets them get there, but yeah, you shouldn't really have to do anything special to beat this deck. Just play your units, and they're better than their units. And all your
Yeah,
stuff as well.
it's
The turn 1,
it's
like R2, can't even be Tarkin Town because they can't ping
Right.
it. Sorry, go ahead. I'll
yeah.
cut you.
That's no. I mean, that's perfect. That's what I was going to say. Is your 1-drops are your best cards against them because they can never ping them.
Right.
So things like R2D2 is insane against them. I played Quinnland twice. I 2-0'd the first guy, and the top 8 I played against Chris Lewis on Quinnland, and he did actually beat me. Game 1, he like I think it was his flip turn. He played force throw into Qi'ra.
And I think that was the one not streamed quarterfinal, if I recall right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Because we had 3
But, like,
tables.
Like the combo of double force throw into Qi'ra made sure that I couldn't play my top end. And then I kind of just got outvalued at that point because then I couldn't deal with this board of like Quinnland, Qi'ra, and like something else. So normally it's not a problem because once you get to your Lukes, they can't win the game because they can't ever really deal with Luke. But
So
I just couldn't get there.
So holding up, I guess, Team Quinnland a little bit. I mean, one thing that occurs to me right now is that actually I think we might be back to playing 1-drops. I did
Maybe.
have R2 and then a times chopper in my Quinnland list to be able to give you some way to ping a 1-drop. And
Yeah, but like
Still can't
like
Tarkin Town it.
it doesn't matter if they have a 1-drop most of the time because like even if you go like clone deserter and they're like, okay, play an R2 and target down your clone. It's like okay, sure, you're down a clone, they're down their Tarkin Town, and sure they drew an extra card, but now they don't have the Tarkin Town for something like an ambush blue leader or like your cards that actually matter. So it's just a rough matchup for him overall.
Also, in that scenario, they're only pushing 1 a turn instead of like 3. So,
Yeah, exactly.
you gained a bunch of time.
right. And I do think that the Quinnland should be looking at Mace again, which is something that was going on a lot more last set.
Mace
But
Windu is something that is really scary for
Yep.
Ray because it just mops up your whole board.
I would say that they should be looking at 6-drop Enfys Nest. It's probably the
Yep.
scariest card for me.
Yeah,
One shots Ray, take no damage back.
I can see that too, but I mean,
Just-
I think
just
the
think,
meta has shifted
like-
it enough from this is Michael's list from Richmond, but I
Yeah,
mean, you
it's
have
just ambush cards in general are really good against Ray.
Right.
Because it just mops up their board and like you don't get your max value out of your units.
and it's not on Michael's list either. There's Hidden Sharpshooter, which I think is a 4/3 ambush for 4, which is really good into
Yeah.
Qi'ra and would be good into you guys too. So, I mean, I would say that this list Michael had was great for that day. It's out of date. How's Gorilla Soldier into you guys?
I hate seeing that card. I think it's the most stupid card in the game right now. It's so broken. It
Right.
doesn't even make sense. How do I... Most normal decks don't have 4 health in play.
Right.
It just guarantees to damage the base against most decks. Like, what?
Yeah, versus us,
Absolute-
it's not quite as broken because we have 1/4s.
Right.
But they still can get you with this sometimes. It's just annoying.
Yep. And
In general, I think it's just broken.
and certainly, I mean, you do it into kind of every match, but playing under curve into Quinnland is really a bad thing for Quinnland. I mean, that's why, Luke Green was the, hardest matchups. Any of the decks that kind of really incentivize to go under curve, and that would include Ray, do cause problems. And then you got to kind of figure out how you're going to match them to get value your pings or protect your leader long enough.
Yeah.
Because once
Yeah,
that
it-
happens, it
like-
can't get there.
It's cards like Blue Leader. Like Blue Leader is insane against Quinnland because like it comes down, it ambushes like a 4 or 5 drop, with that much power, but it's a 3 drop, so it can't be pinged by anything that they want to play.
Yep. Now, and I would say though, I mean, the other thing Quinnland can do is there's really 6 huge threats in the deck, which are the Homeones and the Lukes, right? So if you can get all of those into the discard pile, however you do it, it might be more fair. I'd love to actually play this matchup a little bit more. I have not been doing competitive.
Yeah, the only
myself
card that I don't want Quinnland to play against me, I mean, other than Han Solo, is Qi'ra.
Qi'ra,
Like, that's
wow.
like those are the 2 best cards they have against you.
And Han Solo's in Quinnland because of Luke unit and Cat unit. I mean, that's why he's in my Quinnland list. And then to whip it Ray's head if you can, that can be fun. All right, let's talk about Han Green, that matchup. Start with John here. Have you played Alex with his Han as Ray?
I don't think I've ever played against Alex with the Ray deck, but like I seem to play against 3 or 4 Han Solos in every single tournament. Like I played against it 3-4 times in Richmond, and I played against it 3 times in Minnesota. It's just
Did you knock
one of those decks.
my friend Alex out
Yeah,
right at the
yeah,
last round of Swiss? He took 16th, so
Next
shout
to
out to
last
Alex.
round, I
Guy.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were the loss that took him out of the top cup, but he was playing great all day. We had him on stream a couple of times.
Okay, so it really depends on their build. That's how they, if they can beat you or not. If they have multiple, like Enfys Nest, you might be in for a bad day. If not, you're in pretty good shape. That's like their best card against you. If they're smart and know the matchup, they'll know that they need to ambush with their 5-cost Han, their
Right.
7-cost Han, play their, Enfys Nest. And then the matchup can be like a little tougher. If they just try to go like space race, they'll probably lose every time because they can't space race your restore. Like you will out restore them at some point, and this is especially true if you ramp, because then you get out your Qi'ra or your Ray leader, and they can't really race that at all. Like they just can't kill it. Village People is one of your best cards against them to stop like their flip turn, to stop their ambush stuff. Yeah, I mean it's just like they're a fast deck, just kind of disguised as like this mid-range pilot pile.
Thoughts on Han Green, yes, sir?
Format's so hostile to Han Green right now. It's probably just sort of dies to everything right now because everyone's trying to kill upgrades and they're kind of just collateral for that because everyone's trying to beat Vader 4 and Ray, 2 of the decks that are on people's radar, and those decks don't like upgrade removal and flying unit hate, and as a result, Han Green's sort of just caught in the middle. I think the scariest thing I've seen a Han Green player do against me was delay their leader flip. That way they got to deploy Homeone instead. And
Interesting.
that turn, the turn before, I had resourced Entrenched and kept Traitorous. And I went, oh, if he puts a Qi'ra on that, I'm in real trouble. Thankfully, he didn't have Qi'ra. But yeah, it's just, yeah.
That's a great point. It looks like this was a comfortable matchup. I'm actually looking through the spreads of the decks. It looks like the Rays beat Han 61% of the time.
Yeah,
the
you've
Minnesota.
just sort of,
Checks out.
they're like kind of trying to burn you, really, is their primary game plan with space units. And Ray's pretty resilient to that.
And I can tell you that I actually texted Sonny D, who's a great Han Green player. You would know him, Secret, Team Secret, and on behalf of Alex, because he was struggling, like, how the heck do I beat Rey Vault? And what he said was 2-for-1 ground ambushes.
Yep.
You know, and I think you
Yep,
said the same thing, is
that's
that
what you do.
like the Han pilot doesn't go on ships. You know, he goes and he eats up whatever's in the ground arena, which makes sense.
Yeah, like you just can't let Ray's ground like build up to 4 or 5 units, because then you'll never ever win. So you need
Right.
cards like
And-
all the Han ambushes plus Infus Nest.
Yeah, and I think if Anfis gets a blaster, then you're really going to have a problem. But
Yeah.
all right, the mirror. And shout out to Pascal. I actually just used his list, you know, to talk about Rey Data Vault mirrors. What are you trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Pasquale. This is this is the deck that he kind of brought it to attention in the States, by
Right.
being the first person to play it here right after Joshua did there.
The day
But
after.
it's, yeah,
The day after. Right.
But it's like the mirror. So I played 2 mirrors, and my mirrors weren't even kind of close, because I played like the mirror breaker cards, whereas like timelies and the unities, whereas the regular standard, I guess, if there is a standard raid deck, isn't playing that stuff.
Right.
So they can't ever in a billion trillion years deal 33 damage to me with a standard raid deck, whereas I had the tools to be able to do that. I mean, that's the mirror. I mean, I don't know how else to say. Like, none of these cards do anything. It's just you're staring at each other, and it's like throwing a pebble at a brick wall. Like, it just doesn't work.
What are your thoughts on the mirror, Sarah?
Well, most of the time when I build decks to take to tournaments, I don't have to respect the mirror at all.
Well, that's
So
one of the advantages of actually bringing your home brews. That is 100% true.
my main deck, and the one for Brighton, has like nothing for the mirror. If somebody turned up with my deck, I mean,
All
I
right.
do exactly what was described. I just stare at each other and go, I can't ever kill you, and you can't ever kill me. I do have good success against things like Yoda Data Vault, like
Right.
against other blue-green heroism variants, because they're not as defensive as you. It's actually, you're actually more favored into those. But the mirror, I mean, the new versions that I've got have got some cards for mirror, like the Cargo Juggernauts, Wingguard Sentry Team, are the main ones that put in a lot of work in the mirror. There's other cards to consider, like Annihilator, is very strong in mirror. But yeah, the mirror is not something that I really prepared for.
Oh, that's very good. So I think actually kind of the adjustments are cool. All right. I actually DM'd Carlos while we were talking, because I realized Han or Vader Yellow wasn't on our matchup list, and it certainly needs to be. I can tell you that Vader Yellow won nearly 80% of the matches against Vader or Rey Data Vault at Minnesota, and there would have been a lot of them. So is this just a punt forever and hope to dodge it, or what are your thoughts?
I think you should just left it off the matchup spread so we could keep talking about how good Rey is. Now we're into,
But no, listen. I mean, you get the advantage of springing things on people. But I mean, say that you're going into an event and somebody has bribed you to play Rey, and you have to do this. What could you do to maybe improve this matchup? Put you on the spot.
the first thing you're going to notice is all those benefits I talked about earlier about your hair growing and your shoes feeling comfortable. It's going to start falling out again. Shoes aren't going to fit. It's you don't like to see this. Basically, the main weakness that the Vader deck has is obviously the Victor leader. If you can traitorous that, or you can clear that in some way with takedown, you essentially double your health pool. It's not quite double, but a lot of the things have one attack, so you almost double your health pool. The other hard thing is the 3/3 4-cost 3/3, the one that becomes like 10/10 or something.
The Clone
stupid.
Combat Squadron is the name of that
Yeah.
card. Yeah, the Vader
That
card.
thing. Yeah. So you have Fail the Dragon, which answers it. The issue with answering it with a 4-cost card like Fail the Dragon is that means there's a bunch of other spaceships that are unanswered. So even if you answer this, you're probably still dead. So the best thing you can really do is you're gonna need Blue Leader to slow him down a bit. But the main thing is the Moisture Farmers and Sundari Peacekeeper, just every bit of restore that you can get.
Right. Because this deck cannot heal. I mean, if you can survive long enough, I mean, there's nothing here that restores.
Oh, you also need Rivals Full. So as you can see, unlike in other matchups where I'm like, I just need like one card or like a little bit to go your way. Here you need like 3-4 different cards. So you can tell it's a nightmare matchup.
No, do you maybe put Confiscate in just because of Vader Leader?
Well, yeah, you would certainly bring in Confiscate, but it's so I don't know how to beat this deck. Like it's very, very difficult. But after talking to some of my teammates and really thinking about it more, I think your best avenue is to just completely ignore all of their 1 and 2 cost ships. Like just forget they even have like the 1-3 and the 2-1 tie, and just totally just ignore them and go to the ground with like Sundari Peacekeeper, your clone guy, any bit of restore that you can do, put on the ground, and then only care about their Victor Leader and their Clone Combat Squadron. Those are the only 2 cards that even remotely matter in this entire matchup. So you want like your Entrenched for either their leader flip or their Clone Combat Squad. Then you want your, just whatever to deal with their, Fell the Dragon to kill their big guy. And then hope and pray that they never draw Overwhelming Barrage on their Entrenched guide to wipe your board. Like, that's probably your best path to victory.
I also hope they don't draw No Good to Me Dead. If you lose the 3 heal from Rey, you lose 6 heal, but you don't just lose 6 heal. You lose 6 heal and you lose 7 damage.
Right.
Yeah.
So you lose 13 points in the race. Absolutely criminal.
I'm very interested to see how these 2 decks evolve too, because this deck can be targeted by all kinds of things. Too. I don't know that. I don't know it was.
Vader is very, very easy to beat if you want to beat it. That's why. Like I love this deck, and I even almost played it. But it's so easy to target and hate out. I just was like, nah, I can't do that.
And then, other than that, try to get other space. Apparently, Tim crushed with Palp Yellow all of the Vader Yellows, which actually makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at what had bad matchups. Quinnland did well into this too, which makes sense. All right. Han 2 Vault. I mean, I don't know that this one is actually as popular in Europe as it is here, but it certainly was a significant deck at Minnesota. What are your thoughts into this? And then we'll ask you about the ECL kind of one that's more played in the EU.
So this deck is actually a pretty hard matchup because they play really large units early. Like things like Poe and similar cards aren't too terribly bad when they're played on curve, but when you just start jamming things like General Riken and Poe and even Mace Windu's 7-drop, like a turn early, it's so hard to keep up with that kind of stuff. And then they randomly have 2 sides in their main deck for like your Luke Skywalker, which is a big problem. They have main deck upgrade hate, so you can't even some versions play System Shock, which is super annoying. Some play Confiscate, but there's always some sort of main deck upgrade hate, which means your Trader says if you're playing it, or your Entrenches never stick around. And they just start playing Haymaker after Haymaker, and you just can't Luke Skywalker all of them. And eventually they just overwhelm you. And then if you get the board back to even, they play a crate. And you're just like, okay, now I can't win the game.
Yep. And there's just basically Fell to answer that. Right.
Yeah. So you just don't have enough defense in the world to deal with all of that at one time, like a turn early.
Yep. That said, I mean, it looks like Han 2 got about 55% of the raise. So
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes at least you
it's
must get there on value
yeah,
and restore.
like they're just a play one card a turn deck.
Right.
So if you can deal with that as Ray, like if they don't have the right one card per turn, you can win the game. It's just oftentimes they have the right cards.
Any thoughts on Han 2 green? I think maybe it's more ECL there, Qi'ra.
I think the reason it was more ECL here is because our tournament was first, and then it was won by the Sabine Data Vault.
Right.
So,
By the way, do you think that Data Vault makes it easier or harder than ECL is to Sabine for Ray Vault?
as in, would I rather play against Data Vault Sabine
Yep.
or
As opposed
ECL
to
Sabine?
Yep.
I'd definitely rather play against Data Vault Sabine.
Yeah,
I love it when my turn 5 play lives.
Yeah.
Makes me really happy.
For decks
Yeah.
for decks like my Vader green deck, I mean, I'd much rather deal with the Sabine Data Vault than have ECL record be in play myself.
Yep, same. So, yeah, when it comes to the Han2 Data Vault, they're not playing Masterpiece, which is it's good for you. You don't want to see Masterpiece. You're terrified of that card. They got Red 5, which is like, it's not as scary as Masterpiece. The real criminal thing that happens in the early game is you can't play your ramp cards while they've got 3 mana open.
Because
You
of
play a
Cham.
ramp card and they played Cham
Yeah,
Sindala.
Cham.
They played a 5 attack resupply. That is definitely broken.
Yeah.
You lose on the spot with that.
For three. Yeah, it's great.
It's a resupply. It's the same card, but it has 5 attack. Hang on. Hold up. I think he's cooking here.
Well, plus you can Fleet Lieutenant it because it's a rebel too. So,
7 leader dead. What? Yeah. You're going to need direct hits because my list has direct hit in. I've at 2 now, I believe.
Yeah, I was playing one as well.
yeah.
I've got it at 2 now just because of the prevalence of the vehicle decks. But if you have direct hits, you get that extra bit of longevity. Because, for instance, if you have to use Fell the Dragon on Rebellious Hammerhead, you're probably going to lose.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And
direct
so you
hits
kinda
it
need,
Rebellious. It also hits Reinforcement Walker, right? Because it's just a vehicle. Is it?
And Homeone.
And Homeone, right.
Yeah,
So
one. Yeah.
And it'll hit Red 5. And it'll hit the Poe Dameron that's equipped to the ship.
right.
So it clears. It helps keep your rivals Fall and Fell the Dragons less taxed, essentially. Because what they're trying to do is go, well, you only have 6 removal spells, 3 Fell and 3 rivals that they care about, and maybe 2 choose sides, because I was playing choose sides as well. But as far as they know, you got 6. And basically, they're just trying to overload your kill spells and go, you can't kill everything I do. And the second something sticks around, I got bad news for you. That means I've got the green light to play Crate Dragon.
Right. Because if Crate comes down and you don't instantly fell it, that's...
Well, yeah, because
That's
if they play Walker and you don't instantly fell Walker, you don't have fell.
Right.
Yeah.
So they know the crate's safe.
Right.
Yep.
So essentially what you need to do is find ways to free up your removal spells. And the way to do that is to play more removal spells with direct hits and choose sides to let yourself kind of saturate your own removals. There's also Annihilator I've mentioned when talking about the mirror match. It's also very good in this matchup because you just, you kill all of one unit. They're all gone forever.
So you're playing
Very,
Annihilator for 13?
I mean, yeah, I have to sometimes.
Right. That's cool.
I don't want to, but
Yoda decks do a lot of that. I've seen it there for sure.
They have what's it's called.
You're my only
yeah,
hope,
You're My
right?
Only Hope.
So they have
Yeah.
another path, right? But I mean, actually,
They're allowed-
Giovanni kicked Stevie out of the tournament, or actually dealt him a loss with like hard cast Relentless and hard cast Campaign Unit. I mean, he was casting them because it was that late in the game.
Yep.
And do you
Also worth noting.
you get to 14, 15 resources with this deck?
Oh yeah, you resource every single turn. You don't stop resourcing. Everything you
mainly just
resource is a
attack,
tech
yeah.
later.
Right.
Yep.
If you do manage to get an Annihilator off and you kill Poe Dameron, you do kill 6 of their cards. Worth noting.
Mhm. That's hot. All right. Cad Bane Tarkentown. This ultimately, it wasn't this list. This is Mephisto's list. Good friend and looper. But any thoughts on Cad Bane Tarkentown having reflected on those games against Raytan? You did get him a game, John.
Yeah, I beat him one game in Swift, and then I beat him one game in the top 4 as well. They were 3 really close games both times. He beat me in Swiss by playing unrefusable offer on my home one and then capturing it. um, which was kind of a blowout.
I didn't. You
Um,
didn't have getting blown out by unrefusable offer on your bingo card for the event.
I did not, but
Are you
it
even
did
trying with
happen.
your bingo cards? Come on. It's
Yeah.
obviously so obvious.
Yeah. But like if their list looks like this, it's like less scary. Um, like the ruthless raiders don't really do anything against you, and like the bamboozles don't do anything against you. So there's like just like a lot of dead cards here. Um, Ray's list was different in that. I mean, he had 3 blasters and 3 surprise strike for starters,
Yep.
which that's a
Yeah.
good way to.
And he
you know,
didn't
to
play ruthless. He did play now there are 2 of them. So there's some
Yeah,
significant
now there are
differences.
2 of them was pretty good because he was able to get out like a turn 2 Zuckus or turn 3 Zuckus or whatever, like a few times against me, which was really, really hard to deal with at the time. He did really well with Mist Hunter and
Yep.
sequencing properly to where he was always drawing like an extra card a turn. So he was actually keeping up with me in his card draw, uh, which just made it hard to just.
I think we actually
Stay
noted that
forward.
on coverage one of the times that you were on the draw deck, but he had actually outdrawn you because we figured out with Mist Hunter in one of the games.
Yeah, and it's just like you're both playing value decks. I mean, Cad Bane is just a value deck. Like
Right.
you're just playing like the scariest cards they have are Forlom and Zuckus. Well, plus Cad unit, but Forlom and Zuckus are like their best cards. So, and Ray just happened to have a bunch of them, and I just couldn't keep up.
Any thoughts on CAD, Yehosera?
No, I've never really struggled into it. I was a bit surprised when I saw the bad matchup spread come out from you guys' tournament. Because, like, honestly, I've never. I struggled to find good matchups for CAD, to be honest. So I was a bit surprised that Ray performed so poorly. But I mean, it sounded like there was a very strong pilot on the deck who knows what he's doing into these matchups. So that probably helped skew it.
That's true. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
CAD Blip Tarkentown was one played, and I think that he made some adjustments and saw a line actually with maybe this deck and some other things that he was able to tech for, and then got there on the strength of it.
As mentioned as well, if they're drawing repeat names of Fulham and Zuckus, it's basically doing kind of what the hand 2 deck's doing, but they have ambush.
Right.
Just playing massive.
Yeah,
threats.
and if he sticks them there, if you stick a Zuckus, then all the Forloms have Saboteur and Ambush, which is just
Yeah, exactly.
makes the
So if
village people feel not really good.
If you're killing one and they're replacing it immediately, it's obviously going to make a really bad circle for you.
Right.
You kind of just need to just run them out of gas, is what I've found.
Right.
But if they're getting the goods, it's going to be a problem.
All right. What about Qi'ra? Qi'ra Data Vault, I think, is the way it's played mostly now. Though there was an excellent Qi'ra ECL deck that was there as well, piloted by, I think, Andrew Strach.
Yep.
You want to start with
Yeah,
this
I mean,
one,
it's-
Yehosera?
Yeah,
sure.
Go ahead.
So how do I beat Qi'ra is one of the most common questions I get. And I find that there's 2 kinds of people when it comes to playing Rey into Qi'ra. There are people who never beat Qi'ra and people who always beat Qi'ra. So there's some kind of philosophy difference between the players when it comes to playing against blue villainy. So I never really struggled against blue villainy. The scariest part of the game for you as Rey is the mana turn 7, because everything prior doesn't really matter. All your early units just trade off, they don't do anything. As long as you clear Pershing without letting it draw like 3 cards, obviously. But yeah, in the early game, everything just sort of trades off. Nothing really that exciting happens. They flip their Qi'ra and they get ahead because they flip before you, and they tend to have a 1-unit lead plus a leader. So they tend to be like 2 units to your 1 or 2 units to your 0 going into your flip turn. And if they can navigate the flip turn, your flip turn, whereby they retain that 1-unit lead, it makes the Vader really crippling because all of a sudden they're like 4 units to 0. And that's where they get to push a lot of damage and win the game and put you on a real clock. Also, if they set up something like that, it means that the Walker, the Relentless, are that bit more back-breaking because those cards are easy to manage in a neutral board state. When they're snowballing, because as mentioned before, you don't have cards like Super Laser Blast, you have to clear snowballing boards the old-fashioned way by playing waiting turn and hitting their units, it lets them ramp a lot of momentum over those turns. So what you really need to be doing in this matchup is doing everything you can to prevent them getting any kind of unit lead. Remember that you're the defensive deck. You always trade. Never go base. Doesn't matter about their base. Always trade and try and protect your board as best you can. You have far more card draw than them. The only card draw that they have is like Pershing and Walker, but Walker shouldn't really be drawing more than one card. So they have very little card draw compared to you. So you win conditions, running them out of cards and keeping the board tight and locked up. Mistakes I make is people thinking that hitting units is pointless because it doesn't kill the unit. It doesn't matter whether it kills it or not. You need to just keep putting damage on their board and stop any kind of snowball. The Cargo Juggernaut and the is very good into this deck, as I mentioned when talking about it, because it's likely to help mitigate the power of their Sith cards.
Right.
The new addition to the deck is the Wing Guard Sentry, I think they're called. The 4/4 that shields fringe units. Sentinel, 6 mana 4/4 shields 2 fringe.
Right.
Because you've got lots of fringe in the deck. Tech, your leader, village protectors, moisture farmer, clone deserters. You've got loads of fringe. And they hate dealing with the shields because their ambush units aren't very good. So it's another type of card that's very likely to be able to help you pick up the pieces from the turns where they're strong. The games that you're going to lose are the ones where you don't manage to stop them getting ahead on board, even by a little bit. The Vader comes down, they get massively ahead. Relentless comes down, you can't manage the Relentless because you have to manage the ground. Then you can't manage the cards like Walker and Avenger and Devastator because the Relentless has stuck. So that's how you lose.
I think
and
that
how you win.
I think that was excellent, advice, and I would not have thought that actually there. But you're saying just deal with Qi'ra's units. Now, when you say you're running them out of your cards, are you just saying that you've run them out of removal and can now hit base, or are you actually talking about fatigue?
You run them out of hand because
Right.
they don't have draw.
Right.
So they can't keep up with you because they can't resource and play a card every turn. Well, they can resource and play a card every turn, but they can never resource and play 2 cards a turn without losing from their initial hand pool. Whereas you can every turn resource and play 2 usually.
Yep. And tech.
So eventually, to keep up with you, they'll run out of hand size.
Right. And eventually tech becomes really important in these matchups. I think I saw Qi'ra playing against Rey Vault. And that's what took
tech
him
100% important because it
Tech's
will
one of your best cards.
Okay.
if you can ever get the experience counter on tech, suddenly Vader doesn't kill it. They have to rely on more to kill it. It also puts it at a takedown range, so that it's really hard for them to clear it once it gets the EXP counter on it. So anytime you're able to do that, then they have to pivot their whole turn to be clear tech. You've gained a lot more time to manage what they're doing.
All right. John, first off, for the record, had you advanced to the final, would you have played it out against Wu?
Yeah, I would have played Wu. Like my plane, I had a few hours to get the match in before my plane left.
So what would your game plan have been?
So a lot of what Joshua said, this is one of the matchups where I use my leader as a Felda Dragon. There's just so many times where Vader comes down and kills a unit, and then I can flip my unit and kill their Vader, knowing that my unit, my leader is just going to die to just literally anything. You can't expect Rey to just ride against Qi'ra. It's never going to happen. So you want to kind of use it strategically as a kill spell basically, and just rely on your techs to just outgrind them. You will win the game with 1 and 2 power units eventually, just because you have infinite of them. And then there's also a weird sub game of forcing their super laser blasts. It's just there's a break point where if you have this many units, they're going to super laser blast. But if you have this many, they might not. And then as soon as they play something big, like a Devastator or something, it's usually safe at that point to spam the board somewhat and go over that break point, because you want to try to make them super laser blast their own big unit. It just, it's just a really weird dance you have to play against Qi'ra late game to,
I know exactly what
Either
you're talking
can
about,
or
right?
fall
You want to make it attractive enough that they do blast, but not so attractive that you've just lost any ability to restock.
Yeah, and like
And
you
refuel.
always have more cards than them, so you can bait the super laser blast and then like slam attack and XP it. Um, and then at that point, like they either have to have like another super laser blast or something like a no glory that they sandbagged for your deck. Um, but I mean that's the whole matchup. It's just like playing this weird dance with your opponent and just not falling behind, like Joshua said, to like their uh, Vaders and giant ships.
Right.
You tread a really fine line. I was describing it on my stream yesterday, but basically, you need to put enough in play to force them to SLB, but not too much that's crippling to you. If you don't
Exactly.
apply enough pressure to force SLB, then they get to play their proactive threats. And the only real way to get good at that is to play against Blue Villainy a lot. Like, I've played tons of games against Boss Blue, so I have an understanding of what's too much.
Best
And that's
transition
how you
ever,
can
my
lose.
friend. So how do you deal with
There you
Boss
go.
Blue?
Go right into it.
That's why you make the big bucks. But what do you deal? So this is, I believe, Duncan's list, who advanced far in Richmond, from Team Secret. But Boss Blue, I think, gets more played in Europe than here. What's your plan?
I mean, I can go first.
You go first.
If you want. Like, I mean,
Yes. Sorry,
I
spaced
think
out for a second.
yeah, like I think this matchup is significantly easier than Ray or Qi'ra. Like,
It's definitely easier than Ray.
yeah, right. Their flip is like not scary at all, whereas Qi'ra generally is. Like, I usually don't care, like, about their bounties at all. Their top targets do literally nothing. Their client does literally nothing. So they have a lot of just dead cards. So, and their late game is much worse as well because they don't have Vaders and Mauls. So it's really hard to like fall behind. So I don't usually ever have trouble with this deck. You just like outgrind them with tech eventually.
Yeah, they just, cards like UV Reinforcement, they just can't really beat that, man. They also just hate what you're innately doing because you're playing all these low health, low attack units, and you're playing multiple of them per turn, and they ultimately trade 1-for-1 with all their removal spells. So, and they have Death Mark to draw, which keeps them relevant for a bit, but they're just going to run out of cards and die.
Now, is Boss sometimes trying to mill you?
They can try, but good luck.
Yeah, that's the only way they can really usually win. But
Right.
it's just not a really feasible plan. So
I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at Duncan's list here. I mean, if it actually has splash yellow, that's there. Now, have you had to play Ray into like a dedicated yellow, blue, black mill deck?
Yeah. I played against Entrenched, and they can't mill you. It's just not possible, man. You put too much pressure, they keep having to defend themselves. Like, they very rarely have time to make the vigilance mill 6.
Did you
And even if they do,
what did you
Sorry, go
play?
on.
Did you play DJ Claro? Because I think that's like, did he run trench far into Lille? If I remember right.
no, this wasn't at Lille. It's at the PQ.
Okay.
At Lille, I didn't play against any trench, but this was at the PQ. I played against it, and yeah, it's just too much pressure. Like, they can't really mill with vigilance, and when they can, they've only like dealt barely any damage to your base, so they need to mill you like twice to feel the effect of it. It's just it's not playable. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was excellent advice, you guys. So I think hopefully my Ray results will improve. I'm going back to our art here by our trench friend, my symbiote who did this, did run trench at Richmond, there. But here's the question. How many cards should be in a Star Wars Unlimited deck? And we'll
I believe the answer is minimum 50.
But I think that you're famous for running more than the card limit. Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, doesn't that reduce the chances that you're seeing your best cards?
Yes, it does, but kind of not really. So the deck that I'm best able to use to illustrate my point is my my Boba deck from set 2 where I was on 54.
Right.
Where I didn't hit my ramp consistency by much. Because the idea was I kept myself above 50% on resupply specifically. And obviously there's super laser tech as well, so there's more, but I was caring more about resupply because it's not as guaranteed that the super laser tech's going to die because I don't have any way to kill it myself other than Crumb. And as long as I kept that percent up, it meant that I was then allowed to play cards like Reinforcement Walkers in my main deck.
Right.
And by doing that, sure, I've hit my chance of hitting my ramp cards a little bit, but I kept it above a threshold that I was happy with. And instead, what I've gained is 2 walkers, for example, which means that all of my matchups against blue villainy were very easy for me because I've got this card that they don't have the tools to deal with. I've got an extra thing on top. And I also got to put 2 patrolling V-Wing in my deck to help with the blue villainy matchup as well. And what they do is they block the power of the dark side, which is their best removal spell against Boba once he flips and has the armor. So what you end up doing is you increase your threat density in your deck and you increase your threat diversity in your deck in exchange for hitting the odds of drawing specific cards. And I think, well, I'm a very big advocate of doing it as long as you know the thresholds that you're happy with on each of your cards. You
Absolutely.
shouldn't just be doing it for fun.
Absolutely. John, what's your opinion?
No, I mean he put it really, really well. Like you sacrifice a little bit of consistency to add more threat density. And I thought in set 1 and 2 that wasn't worth it. He obviously felt differently and did very well. And once the card pool got a little bigger, set 3, 4, it made a lot more sense. And then this became really clear to me when I started playing Data Vault decks.
Right.
With Qi'ra in particular, because your threat density with Data Vault and Qi'ra, like blue-green villainy, is so high because you have room then for 3 Vaders, 3 Mauls, 3 Walkers, and then your Avengers and your Devastators, and it's just like it became clear that sacrificing the consistency was much more worth it. And I'm a big fan of playing 60 cards. Like Data Vault decks, I love just because you have so much threat density.
All right. So I don't think that there's a right answer. I will say this. I mean, we've had actually some people cite some MTG Magic the Gathering material here, and I actually just had a very, very good Magic player, Magic Pro actually, ask me, and making fun of Data Vault, why people would ever play this card. Because I think that in that game, that card would be real bad, based upon.
You draw 1 card a turn in that game, so
right. So but
your
you have to draw lands.
Deck, so.
But results do not lie. I mean, Data Vault is doing very, very well. Going back to the very, very first masterclass, I mean, I think we're 15 or 20 of these in most of the big decks, but the very first one had Guy Cohen saying that Star Wars can reward niche cards because of the restructuring. And he was talking about Force Lightning at the time. Dealing with it, but I mean, as we do these, I think this is something we should figure out. But there's probably a reason why Data Vault is good in Star Wars that it wouldn't be in Magic. It probably does relate to that mechanic, and that probably is actually why, I think it's not so clear as to deck number. So
yeah, and like I do find playing more cards is usually fine in decks that have a pretty reliable value engine.
Right.
Like for Rey Data Vault, like. Not even memeing. I think that if this deck played 65 cards, it wouldn't matter because, all of your cards do the same thing. Like they just draw more cards.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
And the way I explain
when
I explain this, the decks that really ought to definitely be on Data Vault are those that restore. Because I mean, being able to body the damage is much more relevant in a restore deck because you're going to be able to come back down. And 2, the more cards you have that do similar stuff. Right. If you can play, 3 different 4-drops and they all kind of do the same things, or, you play a ramp deck and now there's 9 to 12 ramp cards. Well, it's a lot easier to hit it consistently. I mean, they seem to be able to do well with Data Vault.
Yeah, and like not every deck should be Data Vault. I mean, obviously,
Right.
like I think here in the States right now, we're kind of under like a Data Vault craze where every deck is Data Vault. But like decks like Qi'ra, like you don't care if you don't ramp now. Like
Right.
sure, ramping is great, but it's not a huge deal if you don't, because we're playing cards like Agent Callus now too. So we have things to actually play. Like Ray's the same way. It's like if I ramp, fine. If not, I'm just gonna draw a ton of cards.
You know, I really enjoyed the moment that I first saw Wu play Agent Callus at Minnesota, because we actually started that
Mhm.
conversation before the masterclass, I believe,
Yeah.
about a name I have not heard for a long time because he was played that one. All right.
Yep.
Last question. You guys are both world class players, and really, this has been a top notch masterclass. I've really enjoyed this. But, yehosera, for the player that's maybe built a deck and they think it might be good, and they're worried about bringing it to a tournament, how do you decide that, hey, this is good enough to kind of go out on my own? You know, I think that I'm going to feel comfortable, you know, taking the risk on something nobody's played before. How can you describe that decision to me?
The lion doesn't care for the opinions of the hyenas.
I thought you were going to quote Game of Thrones for a second, but it went a different direction. The lion doesn't care. You know, Tyrion Lannister or Tywin Lannister said the lion does not care for the opinions of the sheep. But
Oh, I didn't actually know that was a quote from Biggie. But yeah, basically, if you feel good and you feel confident with it, there's no real reason not to take a deck that
Right.
you've built yourself and you're happy with. I mean, ultimately, you might look silly. I mean, I looked really silly when I played Rex for 1 PQ, but, you know, I swept that under the rug and it's like it never happened. You just, you just, if it feels good, your gut's generally right on things. So I'd say trust it.
I love it. Great answer. John, what about, and before I get to that though, I did a masterclass on CAD Blue with George the Hulk and then Christian from Chicago last week. I know that CAD Blue is not a meta deck. The reason I did that is both of those guys piloted something off meta to the top of it. And for the deck builders out there that are actually looking to tweak and do that, that's the one for you. And this deck is a meta staple. But I mean, for those of you that are thinking about your deck building stuff, I would really encourage you to check out that CAD Blue one, because that's most of what we talked about was knowing that. So, last question for you, John, though. You've answered how to prepare for tournaments probably 3 times, 4 times by now. But how do you actually decide what deck I want to take? I mean, you've proved that you can perform at the top levels with multiple things. But what were you thinking
Yeah.
to
So
actually get to the Ray deck for this one?
my teammates make fun of me all the time. I am known as the guy who copies other people's homework and somehow turns it in and gets away with it. Like I I just play off of feel. Like if in my gut I feel like a deck is the right choice, I just play some number of games with it and then just kind of roll with it. So I don't like playing the same deck over and over again, because sometimes I feel like it's like last week's deck, for lack of a better term. Like, I don't want to play the deck that everyone else just picked up because it won an event. Um, so I'm more of a mid-range, slower deck player, even though I played Sabine a lot set 1 and 2. But since set 1 and 2, I've just played a bunch of mid-range and soft control decks. I just feel like those give me the best advantage. I feel like I'm a pretty good tactical player, and that just kind of gives me an edge over, other players. So it's kind of what I gravitate to. So when I saw a deck like Ray, I'm like, okay, this deck could be pretty cool because it just grinds better than every deck, and just kind of rolled with it.
Excellent. All right, we'll wrap up here. Any final thoughts, John, for anybody looking at Ray Data Vault?
No, I think it's a great deck to play for the rest of the season. We got about another month of PQs. I think it's very well positioned right now, and I wish everyone luck who
All
plays
right.
it coming up. Going into set 5, I don't know. We'll just have to see.
And you can obviously check out John, hang with him. He did a stream today on KTOD. So, I mean, if you're on that Discord.
Yeah, I stream every week in KTOD, so you can always find me in there, or wherever else.
All right. Yes, Sarah, any final words for all the adoring fans stateside that are now looking at this Ray deck you created?
Yeah. If you want to learn more, you should definitely read my guide.
Mm-hmm.
And I stream on Discord as well every week now. and a lot of the questions end up being orientated around Rey because that's the most recent thing that I did well with.
Okay.
So it's a great place to learn as well.
But you played well.
Which
And
Discord do you stream in?
Mine.
And there is
Yeah,
a
one.
there's a link in
It's in the
ESA.
bottom of my guide.
Yep, there's a link in ESA's to ESA's Discord in the description of this video. Where can they get your guide?
Oh, nice. On my Metafy.
Mhm. And
which I can.
Is there a
put a
cost to
link in.
that, or is it just getting an account?
Articles are always free. Everything I write is always free. And joining Discord is always free. Hanging out in the streams is always free. The only thing that costs money is extra stuff like coaching, VODs, and seminars. Everything else is free.
Well,
Sweet.
yep.
Also,
Yeah,
it's also free to chat to me. I don't bite.
yeah, and thank you very much. And you know, you're on late night now. We have a community here too, but I think this was really a top-notch one, guys. And I look forward to this deck. I don't think this archetype is going anywhere now, you know, because it should be somewhat evergreen. I'm being able to just grind through a bunch of chumps and then win with a couple big cards. So we're going to wrap this up. We have a couple more master classes in the works. And if you watched this far, you're my hero.